Hey everybody, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here. Welcome back to Alex's Corner. So today we're going to go over some Shadows of Innistrad spoilers. I'm not going to do all the spoilers, but I'm going to show the new mechanics. We'll talk about early impressions of them, and then at the end of this Alex's Corner, I'm going to show you a sneak peek at some Travelers of Storia gameplay. Now keep in mind, Travelers of Storia is still in pre-alpha mode right now, which means it's not ready yet for public consumption, but you guys have been patient. I know I've been delaying a lot. If you don't know what Travelers of Storia is, I started the board game, I think it's more than 3 years ago now. And originally I wanted it to be a board game, and then I found logistically that was going to be really difficult and expensive. And it was actually more cost effective to hire a programmer, as well as a composer, as well as an artist. So jumping through all these hurdles, but it's all starting to come together, and I'm really looking forward to showing you a little taste of what is to come with Travelers of Storia. So tune in for that at the end of the video. But let's start it off with some Shadows of Innistrad, over Innistrad rather, spoilers. So let's check out this new mechanic. There's a few to look at. We've got, I believe, 3 new mechanics to look at. I don't think there's more than that, but let's take a look at we'll take a look at all the cards that have new mechanics. So we've got this one called Soul Swallower, 2 and 2 green. It's a rare with it's a 3/3 trample worm, and then it has Delirium. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, put 3 +1/+1 counters on Soul Swallower. So this is what this Delirium mechanic is. Basically, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, effect happens. So all sorts of varying effects can happen. This card certainly seems like a powerful one. I mean, we know from the first time Innistrad came out that it was very much a graveyard-centric set. So I imagine with a mechanic like this, this set shall also be very graveyard-centric. So this ability, very similar to Tarmogoyf, in that, you know, its effect is based on the card types in your graveyard. So obviously this effect would be very good with fetch lands, since that would put a card type in there. But definitely there's going to be self-mill going on with this format to make Delirium worthwhile. I like this card though. 4 mana 3/3 trample with double green in green is really not that special. Which means I don't know if this is actually like a guaranteed first pick. It really is going to be dependent on how many cards self-mill and how good the cards that self-mill are. So let's check out the next. We'll just, as soon as we run into, I'm not going to look at every card. We're just going to look at the cards with new mechanics. So we've got this next one. This also has Delirium. Mind Rack Demon. 2 and 2 black for a 4/5 flying trample demon. It's a mythic rare. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. So it already feeds the Delirium mechanic, and then it has Delirium. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 4 life unless there are 4 or more cards types among cards in your graveyard. So, as is traditional with the demons, it has a downside. Downside is actually pretty heinous if you can't get those 4 card types in your graveyard. But 4 mana 4/5 flying trample seems pretty good to me. Looks like a fun mythic. This Delirium certainly looks like a pretty versatile mechanic. All right, here we go. Here's a new card with another new mechanic, Investigate. So we've got Bygone Bishop. This is really interesting because I've seen Investigate on a few cards now, and the only non-artifact cards I've seen it on are white, which is really interesting once you see what Investigate does. So Bygone Bishop is 2 and a white for a rare 2/3 flying spirit cleric creature. And whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, Investigate. And Investigate is put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield with 2 and sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Very cool. I like it. It's just really interesting to see card draw in white, basically. It's unusual. White cards typically do not have card draw effects unless they're just a cantrip, which every color has. So I'm really digging seeing white get card draw in this way. It's a very roundabout way to draw. It's not like it's easy to. You don't always have 2 mana up. 2 mana is like just enough of a restriction on it, where it's certainly worse than a cantrip. You know what I mean? At the same time, it's cool that you get to control the draw. So if Bygone Bishop were to die, you still have this clue artifact that you can cash in at any time. This looks like a fun mechanic to play with. So I'm looking forward to that. And this card seems very good. Definitely worthy of a first pick in my mind. White card advantage, like I said, very unusual. This one doesn't have any new mechanics, but we've got to take a look at it because I saw that it was basically, it's the new Delver that's not as good. So Aberrant Researcher, 3 and a blue for a 3/2 flying human insect creature. It's an uncommon. At the beginning of your upkeep, put the top card of your library into your graveyard. If it's an instant or sorcery card, transform Aberrant Researcher, and then it transforms into a 5/4 flying insect horror. So also couple things different from Delver we see. First, we easily see that it's 3 more mana, which makes, they must have just thought, Delver ultimately became a deck that's still popular today. But the fact that it puts it into your graveyard instead of just revealing it, this saves you from that, the fact that you could use a fetch land after you look at the top card. If you do that, then you can reveal it. I think, right? Isn't there a way you could like shift the top card of your library? This prevents you from doing that. It just puts it in your graveyard and then checks it. Also, it's not a human insect anymore. On Delver, when it flipped, it was a human insect creature. It was a human on both sides. Now it's just a human insect and an insect horror. So, definitely interesting there. Okay. Yeah, I think this card is certainly going to be playable. But it's no Delver. It is no Delver. All right, let's see. I can't even read this one. Doesn't look like it's got a new mechanic. Let's look for another. We can see Madness is coming back. That's interesting. Madness is always kind of a fun mechanic to play. And discarding cards is going to go with the sort of graveyard theme of this format, so I like that too. And any card I don't go over that you really want me to comment on, feel free to leave a comment and I'll take a look at it. I just haven't gotten the chance to go through all these cards, and it would probably take me an hour if I went through individually. So I'm just going to go through the sort of new mechanic cards. Where are some new ones? Here we go. Here's another Delirium creature. So we've got Reaper of Flight Moonsilver. So it's a uncommon angel, 3 and 2 white for a 3/3 flying angel. And then it's got Delirium. Sacrifice another creature. Reaper Flight gets +2/+1 until end of turn. Activate this ability only if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard. Okay, cool. So it's basically got I'm loving this Thesaurus on Mythic Spoiler. It's got the Fallen Angel ability. Sacrifice a creature, it gets +2/+1 until end of turn. So seems good. I like it. And as this commenter has wisely said, a sack outlet in white. Kind of unusual. Certainly unusual. But as we know, Innistrad sort of has some color breaking sort of history to it. So seeing black abilities in white is not out of the realm of Innistrad. Here's another Delirium card. Pick the Brain. 2 and a black sorcery, uncommon. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. Choose a non-land card from it and exile that card. And then Delirium, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, search that player's graveyard, hand, and or library for any number of cards with the same name as the exile cards and exile those as well. I like it. It's a cool ability. Does it seem expensive? No, I guess if we look at something like, well, for the Thesaurus, they just chose stuff that pulls it out of your hand. I think they could have also put, I guess Lobotomy, yeah, is got to be the closest one. So it basically is like straight up a Lobotomy that, yeah, it is. It's Lobotomy for a blue mana cheaper, basically. But the difference is you need to have Delirium to make it a full-fledged Lobotomy. I like it. Seems like it'd be pretty playable. Is it terribly exciting? No. Neither was Night Terrors in Innistrad. So I can imagine this being a sideboard card in constructed environments. I don't see it as being a very good limited card. But it does exile, which is nice. What have we got next? Here's another Delirium card. Invasive Surgery. 1 blue instant. It's an uncommon. Counter target sorcery spell, so not great. Delirium. If there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, search the graveyard hand and library of that spell's controller and exile those cards. Now, this is interesting. A blue card that exiles all the ones... well, we can see on the Saurus that Quash did that for 4 mana, and Counterboard did it for 5. So now we're seeing it for 1 mana for sorceries only, and only with Delirium. This card's interesting. Once again, not a limited card, I don't think. Not very good chance of that. Possibly a sideboard limited card, but also possibly a very good sideboard card against if Control were to ever become a deck again. It seems like it's been a while since we've seen a solid Control deck in Standard. Or at least a traditional Control deck, you know, board wipes plus card advantage plus spot removal plus 1 big finisher. It has been a while since we've seen a deck like that. Even the sort of Esper Dragon list seemed a little bit more involved than the traditional counter strategy. Okay, so let's keep going here. Okay, Tooth Collector. 2 and a black for a human rogue, 3/2, uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. I'm liking that. And then Delirium. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, target creature that player control gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Cool. So this thing could potentially kill 2 things or give something -2/-2. It seems very good. I'm liking it. What is this? Oh, it's similar to another card from this set. That's kind of funny. Well, we'll see that in a second then. In fact, it is. It's the next card. So we've got Topplegeist. 1 mana, 1/1 flying. When enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls. Seems like a good tempo card already. And then Delirium. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, tap target creature that player controls. This card seems great. This card seems fantastic. Just tap their stuff down every turn if you have Delirium. And even if you don't, you have a nice sort of tempo-y, swingy card. I'm liking Topplegeist. Seems good for limited. Absolutely. Skulk. Here we go. Here's another brand new mechanic. So Skulk is this creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. So unlike Menace, that makes it so they can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Skulk is going to be... To me, Skulk seems like it's a difficult one to design a lot of cards for, right? Because with Skulk, if they can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, then you would really never want a creature with Skulk to have very high power, or else its ability is kind of irrelevant. So I guess the only thing we can expect to see on Skulk is creatures with relatively low power. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, the ability is kind of pointless. Now, if there's going to be a Skulk like Shade type creature, a Skulk creature that's inflatable, that would be very powerful because you would attack and then after blockers pump it. That'd be pretty cool. But let's go over this Farbog Revenant. So Farbog Revenant is 2 and a black for a 1/3 spirit creature with Skulk and lifelink. So this seems like a very playable black card. Black creatures in particular, kind of historically the weakest color for creatures. And yes, that's including blue too. So it blocks reasonably well. Usually 3 toughness cheap creatures are fine in most limited environments. We'll have to see how good this Skulk is. I imagine pump effects, instant speed pump effects, or other forms of ability pump effects interact very positively with Skulk, because once your creature's not blocked, you get to pump it up. So Farbog Revenant, I'll keep an eye on that. I doubt it's going to be tremendously powerful, but you can just peck away at them, right? Gain a little bit of life back. Certainly seems like a playable limited card. What have we got next? Let's look at this other white Investigate card. So we have Thraben Inspector, 1 white for a 1/2 human soldier creature. It's a common. When it enters the battlefield, investigate. So 1 mana, 1/2, and it lets you put out a clue artifact token that lets you draw a card. This certainly seems like a playable limited card. Is it going to be great? No. Is it going to be okay? Possibly. It really is dependent on how aggressive the format is, and if you are playing sort of a mid-rangey deck, would this be a good card to main deck to sort of stave off aggro while simultaneously giving you some mid to late game card draw value? I think this card's actually very playable. I actually think most white limited decks would be happy to play this. Yeah, I don't even think that's an understatement at all. I think playing a 1 mana 1/2 that eventually is going to net you a card is actually very good. So I certainly think I'm going to be playing this plenty in limited. So let's continue. Here we go. A black card with Delirium. So 4 and a black for a 5/3 zombie hound creature, Hound of the Varbogs. It's got Delirium. If it has Menace, as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. So Menace, obviously very good with high power, which this creature has. 5 mana, 5/3, not fantastic, but very acceptable for black. And the potential for another ability on top of that. I think this is a very, very reasonable playable common. Not going to rate it super high yet, but 5 mana, 5 power Menace potential in black is nothing to scoff at. We're seeing a return to Fiery Temper. I always liked that card. Let's keep going. Another white Investigate card. Here we go. So I have to presume that white is just going to be the main color that has Investigate. We'll see if any other colors have it yet, but very cool white mechanic. It's always interesting to see how the set designers sort of expand the abilities that colors have access to, and to see white get card draw like this is actually pretty remarkable. So 1 and a white, instant, tap up to 2 target creatures, and then investigate. I like it. Is it great? No. Is it playable? I assume yes. Buys you a little bit of time, or lets you attack again, and gives you card draw later on down the road. So I'm anticipating this investigate ability being very good and limited. Okay, what do we have next? Let's keep going here. Here we go. Another blue card with, so we see a blue card with Skulk. 1 and a blue for a homunculus creature. 2/1 with Skulk. Seems fine. I like it. A common blue creature that's a 2/1 with an ability. Certainly seems like a very playable blue card. Okay, now let's just quick take a look at some of these artifacts that have interesting new abilities. So we've got this Tamio's Journal, a 5 mana legendary artifact at the beginning of your upkeep investigate. So every turn you're going to get a little clue artifact that you can cash in later. And then tap, sacrifice 3 clues, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hands and shuffle your library. Ooh, I very much like the flavor feel of this. You're collecting clues, and then you're sacrificing them to Demonic Tutor for whatever you want. I like it. Very cool card. Certainly seems like a limited all-stars, since, although it's a little pricey, these kinds of cards in limited are very good. I mean, renewable card draw effect, albeit this one's a little bit slower, but still, seems like a very good card. And then we've got this one, Magnifying Glass. This is 3 mana uncommon artifact. You can tap and add a colorless mana to your mana pool, or 4 and tap and you get to investigate. So this one a little bit tougher to play. Having to pay 6 mana to get a card draw is a bit expensive. So I don't anticipate this one being quite an all-star, unfortunately, in limited. I'm not even, well, the fact that it actually, I'm overlooking the fact that it ramps you. So actually, this card's okay. I can totally get behind this card. If you've got a deck with a relatively high mana curve, I think this card would absolutely be worthwhile. So the ramp effect on this is definitely makes it very viable. And then finally, let's take a look at this Warped Landscape, because I saw this card briefly and I thought it was very interesting. So it's a land, it taps for colorless, and then you can pay 2 colorless and tap, or 2 generic and tap. I need to start getting used to that. 2 generic mana and tap. Sacrifice it, and search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So cool. It's like Evolving Wilds, but you don't get it for free, but at the same time you can also use it for a mana that turn in a pinch. I think this will absolutely be a very useful limited card. Okay, that's just my first little sneak peek at Shadows Over Innistrad. Once again, feel free to ask me if you want me to comment on a card I didn't comment on. I wanted to stick to just the Delirium, the Skulk, and the Investigate cards because I love looking at cards with new mechanics and trying to evaluate them. But if there's a card you'd like me to take a look at, I'd be happy to do so. And just leave a comment and I'll respond to it. Okay, are you guys ready to take a look at Travelers of Storia? Here's a little sneak peek. Now, keep in mind, once again, we are pre-alpha here, folks. I'm giving you a sneak peek of something that is absolutely not ready for you guys to see yet, but you guys have been so patient that I really want to show you. So here is the world map on which you will be exploring. Maybe I should, if you don't know what Travelers of Storia is, I said earlier, 1 to 4 player, fully cooperative campaign card game. It's got elements of Magic the Gathering. It's got elements of Dungeons and Dragons. It's got brand new elements that have really never been explored, as far as I know, before in a card game. And I really just wanted to make Magic more of a RPG experience. I love Magic the Gathering. It's my favorite game of all time. It's just such a wonderful game. But I was always bummed out that there just never was sort of a adventure style format for it. You know, we're exploring, you're getting treasures and stuff like that. Now, I guess arguably if you've played Chandalar, which was an old Sid Meier's Magic the Gathering game, it's got, in fact, if you go back on it now and you're a new Magic player, it's not even going to make sense to you just because the rules of Magic were slightly different at that time. There were some similarities, but the mulligan rule was different. It had like a partial Paris mulligan. You probably don't even know what that is. But anyway, it basically was what I was talking about. That was the closest to an adventure game of Magic the Gathering that you could possibly imagine, where you're defeating random enemies with random decks. I think actually they had just pre-constructed decks, but you would defeat them and you'd get cards to add to your deck. Very cool. This game is going to have a lot of elements of that. So here, and keep in mind, we don't even have any missions ready. It's going to be a mission-based game when it's finished. It's not going to be a game available for public consumption when it's in alpha mode. It's only going to, I have my team of playtesters ready for when the alpha comes out, which should be soon. And we're going to be in a large-scale debugging process, trying to just get all the kinks out of this game. The programmer for this game has been doing a fantastic job. We have no music for the game yet, but I have a composer who's writing pieces. He's finalizing a bunch of them. I have all of the voice work completed for the game. I'm super excited to have an alpha to show to you guys. But remember, we're in pre-alpha right now, so this is just like a little taste, a little sneak peek of what to look forward to. So this is the world map that you're exploring. Now, keep in mind, the world map consists of random world map cards, and world map cards have random events that can happen on them. So let's just click here, move to this. You can see this. This is where the campaign events are sort of laid out, the story mode of the game, if you will. This is just simulating sort of the combat, what the combat for the game is going to be. You can zoom in and take a look at the cards. It's really pretty. I'm really happy with how this is coming. So this is what I'm doing combat with. This is the cards that I deploy. The similarities to Magic. There's no mana in this game, so instead of playing lands and tapping lands to play cards, you just have a set amount of actions that you're going to take every turn, and there's action costs on cards. There's multiple abilities on cards, which I'll have to go over more. Feel free to look at other Travelers of Storia videos on this channel if you want to learn more about how to play the game, but you can see a little bit of the interactivity here, deploying cards, and then moving to combat. So similarities to Magic here, definitely. And we're going to have animations, and there's dice rolling, which is explained in the tutorial videos on there. We're going to have all sorts of different things. I want to show you what a terrain looks like. Okay, so we land on this terrain, and here are all of the different events that can potentially happen on this terrain. And then we roll the dice to determine what event happens. And that gets to happen. You get to choose, and all these other things happen. Let's roll some dice. Obviously, some initial glitches happening here. But keep in mind, once again, pre-alpha, folks. Pre-alpha. You can see all of these different world mobs we're going to face. Brand new art on the game. It's just really beautiful to look at. So I'm super stoked to show you more. Remember, this is just a little sneak peek. I'm in the process of helping the programmer debug all of the sort of things that need to be debugged in this game, which is quite a few still, as you can see. But I'm excited to have more to show you later. I just definitely thought you folks deserve to see sort of where we're at with this. Obviously still in early stages, but he's making amazing progress. There's going to be so much more to show you later on down the road. Thanks for tuning in to Alex's Corner. This went a bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're as stoked as I am for Travelers of Storia, because I can tell you I am going to be a busy man when I release this game. I'm hoping that all of you can help me. It's going to be a grassroots campaign to get attention on this game, so really going to need all of your help to share links and stuff. I'm going to have a brand new forum updated at travelersostoria.com. That's not implemented yet, but it will be. That'll coincide with the alpha release. I'll have a brand new forums for the website. And at that point, I would love it if you guys subscribe to that forum. I just want to I want to gauge how many people from my YouTube channel are actively interested in this game, because I really think you guys are going to love this game. So I'm just trying to gauge how many people. I'm going to premiere my production company, SGM Studios. So that's already in place, but you'll get to see. I'll have probably some new social media set up for that, Facebook and stuff. So I'd like it if you could like my page. That's where I'll be sharing links for Travelers of Storia as we move along with the game, and more things are in place. So love it, guys. Stoked to have more of the game to show you. But in the meantime, keep tuning in. Thanks for watching the videos. I'm glad you're digging it. Thanks for all the comments. We'll talk to you guys soon.